don't stop connecting. I think a lot of times the natural instinct can be bury your head in the sand until this crazy time passes, right? But don't stop connecting. It may not be the best time to take huge risks, but it also may be, right? It depends on who you are as a brand. So I think it's really important to read the room, know who you are, know what your customers' needs are, and take all of those components into account and act.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retail Remix. I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, Editor-in-Chief of Retail Touchpoints, and my guest today is seasoned retail marketer Sarah Crockett. Over the course of her career, she has handled marketing for a wide range of brands and retailers, including Vans, REI, Backcountry.com, Dickies, and more. Now, she's the Global Chief Marketing Officer at footwear retailer DSW. So in today's episode, which is brought to you by BigCommerce, we're going to get the scoop, not just on the latest goings-on at DSW, but also her expert insight into larger shifts happening across the marketing landscape. Everything from communicating with customers around tariffs to adapting to the evolutions happening in search and social media. It's a meaty conversation, so let's get to it. Welcome, everyone, to Retail Remix, and thank you, Sarah, for being here with us today. So, Sarah, you just marked your one-year anniversary at DSW. As you look back on the last year, what has really struck you about the DSW brand, and what are you most proud of?
What struck me about the DSW brand is how fun it is. You know, the customers remind us of this all the time and best at reminding us of this. They come into our stores and they literally will dance up and down the aisles. They share stories about the occasions that they're marking with these purchases. And even if they come in for one very specific thing, they often find something that kind of sparks joy for them that they didn't realize that they needed. Like, yes, you are that pink cowboy boot kind of girl, right? And so that is just fun. And that is just consistently smacking me in the face every single day, which is a great thing. And as far as being proud of, well, there's just a lot that this team has delivered on in the past year. So I have a ton to be proud of. I find one of the more enjoyable things to do is just sit back and scroll on the socials. Honestly, it's a very visible place to measure progress on the part of the team. I can look at posts from 2 years ago, and then I look at posts from this week, and the number of partners that we're engaging with, the diversity of the content that we're building, and the way that our fans are engaging is really next level nowadays. So few things really beat visible progress that's backed by data and numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that's one of the things that I find a lot of pride and joy in doing.
I want to hear a little bit more about that because in the company's recent earnings, your CEO, Doug Howe, specifically called out refined marketing strategies as one of the key components of the company's ongoing business transformation. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that refinement has looked like and what it has meant for how DSW is connecting with customers?
Yeah, we've built a healthy amount of momentum against our step ahead strategy and marketing's role within it. And I would say refined strategies go back to focus. We are focused on our consumer and leaning in more and more with them, learning about new needs and opportunities and putting that knowledge to work every single day in an enhanced way than was done prior. We've improved our access and our use of data alongside improving our resources. So people, process, and tools, including how and who we are working with. We're doing real-time optimizations and improvements and a lot of test, learn, and scale, whether that's with our creative and what we're putting into the wild there, or any of our new marketing channels that we've stood up over the past year.
What are some of those new channels?
Yeah, we've stood up anything from audio streaming. So podcasts are one of our newer mediums and streaming audio in general. So that includes your music platforms and seeing some really good success there. Digital direct mail, CTV is a big growing channel for us as well. We have a growing SMS channel that we continue to fuel. So there's a number of them, and it's all about channel mix, all about diversification, finding new ways to intersect with that consumer journey.
On the issue of tariffs, you've taken a very proactive approach. You sent out a really frank message to your VIP members, really kind of just acknowledging all the uncertainty and promoting almost a sense of, I would say, solidarity with your customers. And then you back that up with a $10 bonus reward. So I was hoping you could give us a little bit of the backstory of the decision behind how you communicated that to your customers and what the larger strategic attitude at DSW is around the tariff situation at the moment.
Yeah, this was pretty simple, actually. We knew the tariff conversation was on our consumers' minds. And just as we are consumers ourselves, we knew they were wondering what this would mean for our category, our brand. And despite not having a crystal ball to predict what's happening next, sometimes just saying, we don't know what's going to happen next, is the comfort that the person sitting across from you needs. And we know that with an abundance of certainty, our VIP program is going to be the program that can offer the most price competitive value to our consumers. So this was a way to ensure that if they weren't already engaged in that program, that they could engage in it. And that would be the place where they can have that most competitive value show up every single day. So a bit of a recognition of this is a kind of volatile time. We don't have all of the answers. And hey, here's a way for you to keep pace with the change and ensure that you're getting the best value that you need within this category. And we saw a lot of positive responses from our consumer community with just regards to acknowledging the conversation and letting the consumer know that we too were thinking about it and in tune with them.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you got a positive response to that. I mean, I think transparency has been such a watchword for brands over the last decade almost, as social media has taken on a larger role in all of our lives. And your message just felt so transparent and open and just honest. I mean, because the fact of the matter is none of us have a crystal ball.
Right. And they don't expect us to, right? And so that's why there's this really important balance to strike in these moments where you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver ever. But again, sometimes it's just about saying, hey, we're in this with you. We're in this kind of volatile environment with you as well. And here's the one thing we know with an abundance of certainty will allow you to achieve the best value in this particular category, because we know that they're not just thinking about our category in this moment. It's every purchase that's happening within a household, right? And every category seems to be impacted differently. So we're representing our brand, our consumer community, and just being very honest and transparent.
Yeah. I mean, and to be sure, there's plenty of uncertainty out there right now, but this isn't the first time that we've been through this. I mean, for many of us, COVID is not too far in the past, and that was another period of kind of turmoil. So as a longtime marketer, I'm wondering if you can just share some of your general rules of thumb for connecting with consumers during these periods where things feel a little bit chaotic or where there's economic turbulence.
I think it starts with don't stop connecting. I think a lot of times the natural instinct can be bury your head in the sand until this crazy time passes, right? But don't stop connecting. It may not be the best time to take huge risks, but it also may be, right? It depends on who you are as a brand. So I think it's really important to read the room, know who you are, know what your customers' needs are, and take all of those components into account and act. I think that is the most important thing that I constantly remind myself of on a regular basis, because it frankly seems like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all different than they used to be a week ago, right? So it's important to keep that in mind.
Marketers are definitely facing a lot of turbulence right now, both on the consumer side of the equation and in the digital landscape. And we're going to get Sarah's take on all of it right after a quick message from our sponsor.
Retailers know how frustrating it is to use a rigid e-commerce platform with tons of restrictions and hidden fees. But what if you could customize and curate your online store exactly how you wanted? Meet BigCommerce, the flexible e-commerce platform that works for you, not against you, where you can easily integrate with any best-in-class tools with no additional fees. That means more money in your pocket. Whether you're selling B2C or B2B, BigCommerce delivers powerful e-commerce solutions for every business need. Want to learn more? Visit bigcommerce.com/retailremix.
The marketing ecosystem is also experiencing some turbulence of its own, particularly on the search side. So I really want to get some insights from you on that, because after years of shifting timelines, Google has now announced earlier this year that it will now not be eliminating the use of third-party cookies after all. At the same time, the introduction of Google's AI overviews and the emergence of shopping functionality in other AI platforms like ChatGPT and Perplexity is really shifting how consumers connect with brands. So I know that's a lot, but what is your view on the shifting search landscape more broadly, and how are you kind of adapting your marketing approach accordingly to that?
Yeah, just like everything, search will change. And it's on a faster change curve today than it was 5 years ago because there's now real competition in the market for the space. And you see a lot of the behavior that's happening in the immediate responding to new forms of competition. I'm a huge believer in a healthy channel mix as the answer to this opportunity. Even when you're in a situation where you may be overly dependent on one channel, which many marketers are, you have to work to reduce that dependency, not just for that risk reduction, but also really just to add dimension to how you're connecting with your consumer. We're either fueling an existing consumer journey or we're intersecting on a customer journey where they've already thought about their purchase intent and we want to ensure that they ultimately transact with us, right? So there's different forms of consumer journeys and no two customers are exactly the same. So diversification within that channel mix is so key, especially when you can couple that with targeting. So that is really where I go to in this time where we see such a prominent channel like search changing in front of us. As long as you have other means to connect with that consumer and you're a quick study on how these elements are changing, I think you're going to be able to continuously adapt and ensure that your sort of playbook evolves to the current landscape.
Now, I imagine you kind of have a unique perspective on this because in addition to your role at DSW, you're also a member of the Google Advisory Council, right?
That's right.
So what exactly does that entail and what kinds of conversations has that group been having lately?
Yeah, so Google hosts a handful of retail executives every quarter, and it's retail executives from many different categories. So it's not just the apparel or footwear space, but really think about a category. There's likely a representative in the room with this advisory council. And it's a quarterly conversation where Google, it's two-way, right? So Google's listening to us. What are some of the opportunities and challenges that we see with regard to the marketplace? And it's an opportunity for us to hear from Google on what are the new capabilities, new solutions that they're offering across their portfolio as well. So it's a really multifaceted conversation because you are in so many ways building these relationships and learnings across multiple categories with your peer set, but also taking in some conversations with a partner like Google and YouTube who are constantly innovating and constantly fueling new changes to the marketing landscape.
It must be so hard. I mean, I always think this about marketers having to keep up with that constant change. I mean, Google just had its I/O conference and there's a ton of new capabilities coming out. YouTube has just released a bunch of new, and that's just one channel to your point. I mean, how do you stay on top of all of this? The pace of technical innovation is just mind-boggling sometimes.
Have children. That's my quickest answer. I have a 13-year-old son and he constantly is teaching me. I ask him a ton of questions, but I think it's also just a curiosity mindset. And I find some of the best marketers that I look up to really lead with curiosity. So it is a lot because the landscape is changing, but you can start to understand what are some of those shiny objects that might be distractions and just kind of come and go and not leave much of a footprint. And then what are these fundamental changes like AI in our landscape that you really need to lean in and learn quickly about and adapt within, again, your playbook. So it does depend on the conversation. But honestly, I think the more curiosity you have, and I joke about having children, but really it's a great resource to be able to listen and learn and observe in your everyday life as well.
My kids, I think, are a little too young to be helpful just yet. That's the one thing. It's an investment. You have to put in a little bit of work before they start giving you tech advice.
Yes. There are multiple benefits to having children beyond the marketing job itself. Yes.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised at how young they start to produce some value for you, though, in that sense.
I know, it's a little scary. So speaking of kids, I mean, when it comes to the digital market landscape, we'd be a little remiss not to touch on TikTok, which has been another kind of wrench in the works for marketers over the last year and a half. And the fate of the platform still remains unresolved in the US. Everybody seems to be moving forward, though, as if it will be resolved. But I'm curious what your approach has been to this situation, given all the lingering uncertainty in that arena, but also the power of that platform, and how your larger social strategy is shifted with all of that.
Yeah, TikTok is still an important and growing platform for us. I believe TikTok has fueled a consumer behavior with content that is so well met through their platform, but has also moved the market. So you have other platform providers like Snap, like Instagram, like YouTube, where creators are taking up space, sharing their unique perspective. So whatever happens to TikTok, consumers aren't going to be putting their phones down and trade for a magazine again. Unfortunately, I do happen to love a good magazine still now and again. But so we should expect to still need to connect with awesome content creators to hear their perspective on our brands. We should still expect that we should be producing content to share with our online communities, whether it's on TikTok or if it's on TikTok or if it's on other platforms in lieu of TikTok, should this decision go in a different direction. I think the consumer behavior and the adoption of content usage in the way that TikTok has really accelerated, I don't think that's going anywhere.
So have you shifted your strategy in other social channels in response to the emergence of TikTok over the last few years?
In the sense, we've really gone after the influencer community and influencers who connect really authentically to our brand, whether they're higher profile celebrities or somebody in a smaller market with just high influence and a rich pocket of consumers who are highly engaged with them. It's a bit platform agnostic, but we do, again, try to diversify the platforms that we do use this content within so that we are fueling TikTok, but we're also fueling some of these other channels. We don't like to have too heavy of a weight on any single one platform. We do, again, see that value in diversification.
Looking ahead, what would you say are DSW's biggest strengths, and how do you plan to kind of leverage those in the coming months as retail starts to turn its attention to all these major sales periods coming up? First back to school, and then, of course, pretty soon it's going to be holiday.
Right around the corner, isn't it?
For retailers, at least.
That's true. Yes, that's true. We do work on 3 to 4 seasons at a time. So, I think I'll make this a true 360 moment, and I'll end with the strength of our brand that is around that fun that I mentioned at the beginning. That is something that our consumers are telling us loud and proud, that this is a category that they truly can have fun with, that really is self-expression at its core. We're in the final stretch of some really exciting brand work that the team has been tackling in partnership with a Stagwell agency partner at Crispin. So we're illuminating some of this work coming up in the fall period. I would say that is going to get at the core of what I've been talking about with regard to this category and the fun that we can bring to it. It's going to feel right and honest, and I'm simply just beyond excited to see it out in the wild.
Well, I can't wait to see it either. I also feel like maybe I need to stop in and see if I might be a pink cowgirl, pink cowboy boots person.
I think you might be
I'm not sure.
Cowboy boots person.
Maybe not pink, but cowboy boots sound like a lot of fun. So thank you again for all your time today and the great insights you shared with us.
Thank you, Nicole.
And thank you also to our sponsor, BigCommerce. As always, we'd love to continue the conversation with all of you on LinkedIn on the Retail Touchpoints page. Be sure to stop by and drop your take on the topics we covered today with Sarah in the comments section, and let us know who else you want to hear from in future episodes. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.